Graham. She said it like a secret, like something precious. But the room wasn't quiet, not even close. There was screaming, blood, beeping monitors, nurses moving like clockwork, a doctor with his hands coded in the beginning of a new life. And through all that chaos, I heard it clear as if she'd whispered it directly into my ear. Graham, not my name. Wendy, the nurse holding my wife's leg, flinched. Just slightly. Her eyes jumped to mine, fast, sharp, questioning. She didn't say anything, but she didn't have to. That look stabbed deeper than anything I've ever felt. It said, "Did you hear that too?" I blinked, nodded once. My throat tightened. I almost missed the moment my daughter slipped into the world. I didn't cry. People say you'll cry the moment you become a parent. But I didn't. I stared at my newborn daughter, my heart thudding like a broken metronome. The doctor asked if I wanted to cut the cord. I shook my head. My hands were shaking too hard anyway. Wendy hesitated, just for a moment, before stepping in. They laid my daughter on Celine's chest. I watched her smile, tears streaming down her cheeks. Not for me. Maybe not even for the baby. Her lips moved again, silently this time. But I saw it. Graham. She kissed our daughter's forehead. And I stood there, watching the two of them, feeling like I was watching someone else's life, someone else's family, someone named Graham. I didn't say anything that night. Not to her. Not to the nurse. Not even to myself. The only sound I made was the fake laugh I let out when Celine called me Dad for the first time. It felt like she was calling someone else. And maybe she was. Back at home, the silence settled between us like dust in an empty room. Everyone kept texting congratulations. Family called. People dropped off meals and balloons and all these things that were supposed to make the house feel alive. But I was just going through the motions, holding the baby, smiling for pictures, nodding while Celine told the story of the birth. She left out the whisper every time. I didn't forget. I tried. God, I tried. I told myself I was being dramatic, that it was nothing, that it didn't mean anything. But that nurse's eyes, that flinch, it kept replaying in my head like a stuck video. I couldn't sleep. Not well. I'd lie next to Celine and watch her breathe, wondering who she was dreaming about. After 2 weeks, I broke. It happened late at night. The baby was finally asleep, and Celine was in the kitchen warming a bottle. I just blurted it out. "Who's Graham?" She stopped mid-motion, didn't turn around, didn't move for a full 5 seconds. And when she finally spoke, her voice was so calm it scared me. "What are you talking about?" I stood there, heart pounding, like I was the one with something to hide. "In the delivery room. You whispered his name. Don't lie. I heard you." "The nurse heard you too." She turned then, slowly, like a movie villain at the end of a hallway. Her face twisted into this mix of confusion and annoyance, like I'd just accused her of plotting world domination. "You must have imagined it. I was in pain. Drugged. Do you really think I would?" "Yes," I interrupted, my voice cracking like a cheap plate. "Yes, because you said it like you meant it." She slammed the bottle down on the counter. Milk splashed everywhere, but she didn't even look at it. "You're being insane," she hissed. "You're paranoid because you've always had that insecurity thing going on." That hit me harder than I expected. Because she wasn't entirely wrong. I've never been the confident one. I've always wondered what someone like her was doing with someone like me. And now she was using that against me. Like this was all in my head. I didn't press. Not that night. She stormed off to the nursery, bottle in hand, like I had ruined everything. And maybe I had, but only because I wanted to know the truth. I needed to know. The next day, when she was out getting diapers, I checked her phone. I know how that sounds. I do. But at that point, something had broken inside me. Trust? Maybe. Or maybe it was just the last illusion finally shattering. I didn't find a Graham in her contacts, but I did find a hidden folder in her photo gallery. It was named Work Docs. Spoiler, it wasn't work. The first picture was a blurry mirror selfie. Not of her, of a man. Shirtless. Tattoos on his collarbones. I stared at the photo for a long time before swiping to the next one. And the next. There were dozens. Some screenshots of messages I couldn't read because the app was uninstalled. Others were photos of hotel beds, receipts, angles of things no wife should ever be sending to someone who isn't her husband. Then I found the one that froze my spine. A selfie. Her. In a bathroom. Makeup perfect. Wearing my old college hoodie, the one she said she lost last year. Her caption read, "Wish you were here, G." I just sat there, phone in hand, breath shallow. My baby's tiny cries echoed from the other room, but I couldn't move. Couldn't think. Couldn't even feel anger yet. Only one question rang in my ears. Was she ever really mine? That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the hallway outside the nursery door, the glow of the baby monitor flickering on my phone like it was trying to signal me back to reality. Every time I closed my eyes, that image of her in the bathroom wearing my hoodie flashed like lightning. I could almost hear her voice whispering that name again. Graham. Like he was a ghost haunting the very edges of our life. But he wasn't a ghost. He was real. I had the pictures, the receipts, the proof. But what I didn't have, and what I desperately needed, was context. I needed to know how far this went, how deep the betrayal ran. Was this a stupid fling, or something worse? And that question gnawed at me like a rodent in the walls of my sanity. The next morning, I dropped the baby off with Celine's sister under the excuse that we needed a day to reconnect. That was a lie. I needed to dig. I told her I was going to get groceries. That was also a lie. I drove instead to the one person who might actually give me answers, her coworker, Madison. I had only met Madison a handful of times, holiday parties, awkward barbecues, forced social events. She always struck me as overly professional. The kind of woman who carried 2 phones and didn't smile unless there was a camera involved. But I remembered one particular night when Celine came home tipsy from a client dinner and slipped up just enough to say, "Madison covered for me." Back then, I thought she meant it in some harmless way, like swapping shifts or handling a report. But now, with everything swirling around me, that sentence hit differently. I parked outside Madison's apartment complex and sat in the car rehearsing what I was going to say. What if she slammed the door in my face? What if she laughed? What if I was wrong about everything? I wasn't. She opened the door with a towel around her neck like she had just stepped out of a yoga class. When she saw me, her face fell into a deadpan stare, not surprised, not angry, just tired. "I was wondering how long it'd take you to show up," she said, stepping aside to let me in. No hesitation. No questions. That told me everything. I walked in, barely able to speak. She offered coffee. I declined. She poured some anyway. "She told you about him?" Madison asked, finally sitting down at the edge of a sleek gray couch. "No," I said, voice dry, but her phone did. Madison exhaled hard through her nose. "Then you probably already know more than you want to." "I need to hear it," I said. "All of it. Who is he? How long has it been going on? Was it just sex? Did she love him?" Madison didn't look at me when she spoke, just stared into her coffee like she was reading the future in the foam. "His name's Graham Parker. He used to be a consultant for the firm. Came in last spring for a 6-month project. Tall, British, fake modesty, real money. Women orbit him like satellites. Your wife didn't stand a chance." That last part stung. I clenched my hands but said nothing. "She tried to keep it casual," Madison continued. "Or that's what she told me. But you don't keep hotel receipts in your phone for a fling." She started changing. Coming in late. Laughing at nothing. She said he made her feel seen. That's the word she used. Seen. I felt like someone had kicked a hole through my chest. For 6 years, I thought I was the one who saw her. Who showed up, remembered the little things, made her tea on rainy days, rubbed her back when she had migraines. But apparently, I was just background noise to her real show. "Is the baby?" I started, but my voice caught in my throat. "No," Madison said firmly, reading my mind. "She told me he left 2 weeks before she found out she was pregnant. Said he ghosted. Cold. She was wrecked for a while. Then she snapped back into gear and decided to play perfect wife." I sat there in silence, trying to process what I had just heard. My stomach turned. I couldn't tell if it was from rage or heartbreak. Probably both. "She used me to lie to you," Madison said, finally meeting my eyes. "I covered for her when she needed time with him. I hated it, Vernon. But I also saw the way you looked at her. Like she was the sun. And I knew. You didn't deserve this. But she was my friend. That word meant nothing to me anymore." I thanked her. I left. And I drove home in silence, the whole world feeling like it was underwater. When I walked through the front door, Celine was on the couch, bouncing the baby gently on her shoulder. She smiled at me like nothing had changed. But everything had. The air felt heavy when I stepped back into the house, like it had soaked up the lies and decided to hang them in the atmosphere just to watch me squirm. Celine was swaying gently on the edge of the couch, cradling our daughter and humming something soft. Something maternal. And for a moment, just one damn second, I hated her for looking so peaceful. Like she hadn't been playing a double life. Like she hadn't whispered a stranger's name into the birth of our child. I stood in the doorway longer than I should have. She looked up, smiled. You were gone a while, she said lightly. Everything okay? There was no dramatic music. No thunderclap. Just my heartbeat thudding in my ears. Put her down, I said. Calmly. Too calmly. We need to talk. She gave me a slow, slightly puzzled look. No? Can it wait? She just went down now. No. It can't wait. Her eyes narrowed. She adjusted the baby, laid her carefully in the bassinet by the window, and then folded her arms across her chest like she already knew what this was about. But if she did, she was playing it with terrifying grace. You want to tell me about Graham Parker? I asked, standing perfectly still, afraid that if I moved, the entire house might crack in half. The only thing that shifted was her jaw. A flicker of tension. Her lips parted slightly, not in shock, not even guilt. Just resignation. She didn't ask how I knew. She didn't deny it. Her eyes moved toward the window for a long second before she answered. I wondered when you'd figure it out. That answer. I almost laughed, but my throat was too dry. I sank into the nearest chair like my legs gave out beneath me. I found the pictures. The messages. I talked to Madison, I said. Celine closed her eyes and exhaled slowly, then sat across from me. No tears. No excuses. Just a woman with a story she was finally ready to release. I never meant for it to go that far, she started. He was just supposed to be a break. Something different. I felt like I was fading. I don't know how to explain it. You could have tried honesty, I snapped. That works better than whispering his name while pushing out our child. She flinched at that. Finally, something cracked. Her fingers fidgeted in her lap. It was a mistake, she said. Which part? I asked. The affair? The secrecy? The part where you made me believe we were building a life together while you were building something else with him. Celine shook her head. He wasn't part of this. Not really. He ghosted me, Vernon. Left without saying a word. You think I didn't cry? You think I didn't feel like trash when I came home and looked you in the eye every day? So you decided to give me a baby? I asked bitterly. To what, cover the guilt? That was when she finally cried. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a quiet collapse. She buried her face in her hands and mumbled something I could barely hear. I didn't want to lose both of you. I should have stood up. Yelled. Thrown something, maybe. But I didn't. I just sat there staring at the floor, counting the tiny threads in the rug like they could anchor me to the moment. So what now? I asked. She looked up. Her face was flushed, mascara smudged, and for the first time, she looked genuinely scared. I don't know, she said. I want us. I still do. But I know I don't deserve you. She was right. She didn't. But the worst part? I still loved her. And that's what broke me most of all. I slept on the couch that night. She didn't ask me to come back to bed. I stared at the ceiling for hours. At some point, the baby cried and I got up to rock her. My hands trembled, but I held her close. She was innocent. She didn't know what kind of wreckage she'd been born into. I whispered softly into her hair. I'm so sorry, sweet girl. You didn't ask for any of this. The next day, I made a decision, not because I was ready, but because I couldn't live in that limbo anymore. I needed to know the truth about everything. Every detail. Every message. Every timeline. So I went looking for Graham Parker. Finding Graham Parker wasn't as hard as I expected. The guy had a LinkedIn profile that screamed confidence, 6-foot-something, private school grin, tailored suits in every picture. He'd left the consulting firm where he and Celine met, but his digital footprint was still alive and polished. Apparently, he now ran a boutique strategy firm out in Denver. I stared at his photo for a long time before deciding to message him. I told myself I wouldn't come off like a lunatic. I wrote, Hi Graham. I believe you worked with my wife, Celine, last year. I need to speak with you privately. It's about something that's been affecting my family. Please. He replied 2 hours later. Vernon, I know who you are. I've been expecting this. That one line sent a chill down my spine. Expecting me? What did he know? What did he think I knew? I didn't want to wait. I asked if he'd do a video call. He agreed, next evening, 6 p.m. sharp. I didn't tell Celine. She thought I was going to therapy. Ironically, maybe I should have. When the call connected, I braced myself. His face filled the screen, smoother than I expected, eyes calculating, voice like he was narrating a luxury car commercial. Hi, Vernon, he said casually, like we were about to talk about fantasy football. I skipped the pleasantries. I want to know the truth. The whole thing. You were with her. She said it ended when you left. That you ghosted her. Is that true? He leaned back in his leather chair, steepled his fingers, and tilted his head slightly. She told you I ghosted her? He let out a single breathy laugh. That's rich. She said you stopped replying. That you were done before she even found out she was pregnant, I added, my voice shaking despite trying to sound firm. He looked me dead in the eye and said something I'll never forget. She blocked me, Vernon. Out of nowhere. No warning. 1 week we were close. The next week, she stopped answering. I figured she'd gotten cold feet. Or maybe you found out. But I never walked away. She cut me off. I stared at him, stunned. Then why would she say? Because your wife, he said slowly, wasn't just having an affair. She was controlling it. She made the rules. Time, place, message windows. Everything had structure. And when it got messy, when she thought she might be caught or maybe felt something real, she pulled the plug. I respected that, honestly. Cold, but smart. I wanted to reach through the screen and strangle him for saying he respected anything about this. But I didn't speak. Not yet. She told me from day one, Graham continued, that you were kind, but distant. That she needed fire. That with you, everything felt like a checklist. Maybe by 35, house, schedule, routine. I thought I was just a release valve. I didn't expect her to stay so long. He paused, then leaned in slightly. But she loved you. I could tell. Even when she was with me, there was a line she didn't cross. She wouldn't say certain things. Wouldn't call me baby. Wouldn't wear your hoodie if I was around. As if she was still saving parts of herself for you. That felt worse than any confession. So why did she whisper your name? I asked, barely holding it together. During the birth. The nurse heard it. I heard it. It wasn't an accident. Graham's smirk vanished. His jaw locked for a second. And then, softer than I expected, he answered. Because I sent her a message that morning. What? She didn't block my second number. I didn't even know she was giving birth. I just had a dream about her and woke up, typed something stupid like, hope you're okay. I still think about you. I hit send and forgot about it. A few hours later, she replied, it's today. It's happening. That's all. I never responded. I didn't want to ruin anything. But maybe that message was enough. Maybe in that moment of pain, she reached for something familiar. I couldn't breathe. This man, this stranger, still had access to a place in her heart that I couldn't even see. I ended the call not with an insult or a scream, but a quiet thank you. I don't know why I thanked him. Maybe because his version of the story stripped away the fantasy she tried to sell me. There were no clean endings. No innocent mistakes. Only two people who did what they wanted, and one man who thought he was building a future, while the foundation was already cracked. When I turned off the screen, I looked across the room and saw Celine standing in the hallway. She'd heard everything. Celine didn't say anything when she stepped into the room. Her arms were crossed, but it wasn't anger. Not this time. Her face looked blank, like her thoughts hadn't caught up to her expression yet. I didn't know what to say either. The silence between us was louder than any argument we'd ever had. So, she finally said, you talked to him. I didn't answer. I just sat there, my body motionless but my mind spinning so violently I could barely hear myself think. I had a million things I wanted to shout. Accusations. Questions. Rage. But I didn't trust my voice. He said you blocked him, I finally muttered. Said you were the one who ended it. Her eyes fluttered. I saw it. That flicker of discomfort. I did, she said. When I found out I was pregnant, I panicked. I thought it might be his. I couldn't risk that. I closed my eyes. I told you the baby wasn't his, she added quickly, stepping closer. And it's true. The dates didn't line up. I had tests done, private ones. I didn't want to scare you. You whispered his name, I said flatly, like I was reading a statement for the record. During birth. You whispered his name, Celine. Her breath caught. She sat across from me, elbows on her knees, head in her hands. I didn't mean to. I swear to God. I didn't even know I said it. You answered his message that morning, I said. You engaged with him on the day our daughter was born. Her eyes welled up. I was scared. I didn't know how to feel. I wasn't in love with him, Vernon. I wasn't. He just made me feel alive for a minute. You have no idea how heavy everything was. I stood up, my voice rising for the first time. Everything was heavy for both of us. You think I wasn't scared? You think I didn't question whether I was good enough? I worshipped you. I thought you were my anchor, and now I feel like I've been holding on to a mirage. She started crying, but I wasn't ready to comfort her. Not this time. I need you to hear me, I said, voice trembling. I'm not perfect. I never claimed to be. But I was yours. All the way. I didn't have backup plans. I didn't need validation from strangers. I just wanted to be your husband. She looked at me, mouth open like she was searching for the right words, but none came. You say you weren't in love with him, I continued, but you protected him. You wore my hoodie for him. You saved pieces of yourself for him that I didn't even know existed. Her shoulders caved inward. I'm sorry, she whispered. I was stupid. Reckless. I thought I could end it quietly and just move on. Be a mother. Be your wife. I never wanted this to unravel. But it had unraveled. That was the problem. There was no stitching this back together without the seams always showing. I stared at her for a long time. Do you love me? She looked up at me. And in that moment, her silence was louder than any answer. I nodded, walked past her, and into the nursery. Our daughter was asleep, tiny fists tucked under her chin, breathing softly. I sat beside her crib, placed a hand on the rail, and whispered things she wouldn't understand for years, maybe ever. I will always protect you. I will never lie to you. You will grow up knowing your worth, even if it took me this long to figure out mine. When I came back out, Celine was gone. Not out of the house, just upstairs. Her bedroom door was closed. Locked. I didn't knock. Instead, I sat on the couch and opened my laptop. I drafted an email to a family attorney. Just the beginning. Just some questions. I didn't know what the end of this would look like yet, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending like we hadn't passed a point of no return. Because some things don't get patched. Some things don't deserve to be. The next few days passed like I was trapped inside someone else's life. I functioned, made bottles, changed diapers, checked emails, but nothing felt real. The laughter from the baby monitor was like a ringtone from a stranger's phone. I barely spoke to Celine. We'd pass each other in the hall, exchange dry observations about diaper rash or nap schedules. But beneath it all was this electric field of tension, humming and sharp. I had told myself I was done asking questions. I thought I had all the answers I needed. But truth is a strange thing. Once you crack it open, it spills out in directions you don't expect. It started when my older sister, Shelby, came over to drop off a casserole. She'd always been protective of me, the sensitive one of the family. She noticed the energy in the house before she even stepped fully inside. One glance at my face and she asked, "What happened?" I told her everything. Not in fragments, the whole truth. The name, the pictures, the nurse's look, even the call with Graham. Her expression didn't change much as I spoke. She just listened, jaw tight, arms folded, eyes unreadable. When I finished, I braced for comfort. What I got was something very different. I need to tell you something, she said. Something I wasn't sure I'd ever say. But I think you need to know. I sat down slowly. What? She looked me dead in the eyes. 3 years ago, I saw Celine in a parking lot. At a little cafe downtown. She didn't see me. She was sitting outside with a man. Not Graham. A different guy. Mid-30s, tan, cocky smile, motorcycle jacket. I only glanced, but they were holding hands. I froze. Why didn't you tell me? Because when I circled the block to be sure, they were gone. I figured I'd imagined it. You looked happy. I didn't want to cause a problem if it wasn't real. It was real, I said bitterly. Of course it was. But the name Graham no longer sounded like the entire story. Celine hadn't just made one mistake. She had a pattern. Later that night, after putting the baby down, I sat in our dim living room with nothing but a desk lamp on. I stared at a blank document on my laptop. Divorce terms. A custody agreement. A life split clean down the middle, on paper, at least. And then I heard it. From the hallway. Celine. On the phone. Her voice was hushed but urgent. No, you don't understand, he talked to him. Yes. I don't know how, but it happened. He knows everything. I'm trying to keep it together. For the baby. For now. I leaned closer to the door. Then she said it. I'm not going to lose both of you, okay? I've made it this far. Just stay quiet. Please. My breath caught. Not because of what she said, but because the name she said next wasn't Graham. It was Eli. That name didn't belong in this story. Not once. Not in the photos, the texts, the hotel receipts. I felt a new kind of sickness bloom in my stomach. How many men were there? I stepped back, careful not to make a sound. She ended the call a minute later and went upstairs. I didn't follow. I just sat back down on the couch and stared at the baby monitor screen. My daughter slept peacefully, blissfully unaware of the mess we'd made around her. The next morning, while Celine showered, I went through her desk drawer. That's when I found a torn business card. One name printed on it, Eli Masters. No company, just a phone number. And beneath it, in her handwriting, was a note. "Do not call from the house." That's when I realized I hadn't been chasing the whole truth, just the part she was willing to let leak. And I hadn't even scratched the surface. I didn't confront her right away. Not about Eli. Not about the card. I needed time. Not just to process, but to finally stop reacting and start deciding. For weeks, everything that had happened pulled me in circles. Graham, the blocked messages, her whisper during birth, the lies that spanned not one affair, but clearly more than one. And now this, a third man, a hidden name scribbled on the back of a business card, followed by a warning to keep him secret. I didn't know how many versions of Celine had existed behind my back. I only knew that the version she gave to me, the husband version, had been the most edited one of all. But here's the thing. In all of this chaos, one thing had become clearer than ever. I wasn't staying. Not for the marriage. Not for appearances. Not even for the baby. Because staying would mean accepting half-truths and constant doubt, and that's not the life I wanted for my daughter. She deserved to grow up watching love that was honest. A home that wasn't full of quiet resentment and cracked trust pretending to be fine. So I made arrangements. I hired a lawyer and filed for legal separation first, not to punish, but to set boundaries. I secured a custody plan that would allow me to have primary care while still giving Celine time with our daughter. I wasn't interested in revenge. I was interested in peace. When I told Celine, she stared at me like she didn't understand the language I was speaking. At first, she begged, not dramatically, just with this raw fear in her eyes that reminded me of who she used to be. Then came the bargaining, the promises, the sudden rush to therapy and deleted numbers and long talks about growth. But it was too late. She had years to come clean. She had chances to tell me about Eli, about the man at the cafe, about every broken vow disguised as a moment of weakness. And every time she chose silence. So this time, I chose something else. Freedom. She moved into a small apartment across town. I helped set it up. I even bought a second crib for the baby, so she'd have consistency in both homes. Celine was shocked by the way I handled things. No screaming, no bitterness, no airing it all out on social media like she once feared. Because I didn't want to hurt her. I just wanted to stop letting her hurt me. And slowly, I began rebuilding a life. I went back to therapy. I joined a support group for single fathers. I took time off work, leaned on Shelby more than I ever had, and let myself feel all the grief I'd pushed down for years. And something happened I didn't expect. I started to feel okay. Not all at once, but enough. Enough to laugh again. Enough to look at my daughter without seeing betrayal. Enough to meet new people and not flinch when they asked if I was married. One afternoon, about 7 months after Celine moved out, I stood in the park, holding my daughter's hand as she took wobbly little steps on the grass. The sun was out. People were flying kites. A little boy ran past us chasing a bubble wand and yelled, "Watch out." I laughed. A real laugh. And it felt strange, like stretching a part of me that hadn't moved in years. Celine walked up a few minutes later to pick up our daughter. She looked healthier, calmer. She smiled at me, and it wasn't fake. It wasn't desperate. It was just real. We talked for a while, and for the first time, it didn't feel like a war zone. I don't think I'll ever fully understand why she did what she did. Maybe she doesn't either. But I've stopped looking for the perfect explanation. Sometimes people break things. Sometimes they regret it. But not everything broken has to be salvaged. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is let it stay broken and walk away holding on to the one part that's still whole. For me, that was my daughter. And finally, myself.